Donatelli, are you there?
Tom, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I am. Yes, I can. And welcome to our program.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
You are the chairman of GOPAC, the GOP Political Action Committee. Is that GOPAC.org? Is that an accurate description?
It's more of an acronym, GOPAC. But we are the group that finds and trains and educates the next generation of Republican leaders, people that run for state legislatures, state and local office, and eventually in a few years they move on and run for Congress and Senate and maybe even president someday.
How do you get these young people to believe that things like, free college education like we used to have in the United States, that Jefferson and Lincoln did, Lincoln with land-grant colleges, Jefferson with the UVA, the GI Bill, that those are bad things, and that corporate CEOs should be making a fortune off their education and they should have big student loans? How do you convince them to think like Republicans?
Well, I don't know that it's that difficult. I mean, I think that our message of economic opportunity and upward mobility is something that should appeal to all segments if we develop it properly. We have not done a good job with young people if you're going to look at the results of the last couple presidential elections.
Yeah.
So we have a ways to go there.
Do you think it could be your message? I mean, for example, what I just said?
I think the message of economic opportunity is something that should resonate with young people.
Well, what does that mean? Genuinely, Frank. I mean, what you say economic opportunity?
I thought it was self-evident what it meant. It meant that if you graduate and do a good job in college, you can find a good job. And that means that the government should develop good policies so that there are jobs available to young people when they leave the school and go into the workforce.
So GOPAC thinks that there should be more government involvement in this developing policies so that people can find jobs.
You're supposed to develop policies that create the right framework so the private sector can create jobs. Yes, government doesn't create jobs.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. I mean, government does create some jobs. Obviously, Paul Ryan works for the government, for example. But yeah, government is like the soil in which the plants of private enterprise, free enterprise businesses can grow. And
the government should tend to the soil.
Yeah,
the government puts
I'm
the
surprised to hear
nutrients
you
in there.
say that, though, because I keep hearing Republicans say, "Get rid of government, get rid of government, get rid of government." And here you are, the chairman of GOPAC saying,
Tom, now come on. Beside Ron Paul, who else says that?
Well, Ronald Reagan did in his inaugural address. He said, "Government is not the problem; the solution is the problem."
Ronald Reagan never said get rid of government. Ronald Reagan said government too often is the problem; it's not the solution. And it's the problem when it gets too big, and it tries to compete with the private sector rather than stimulating the private sector.
When has that ever happened in the United States?
Now.
In what area is the government competing with the private sector?
They run General Motors now.
The General Motors is run by its own board of directors at this moment.
And with the active involvement of the federal government.
Until all the money is paid back.
Who forgave a lot of loans and screwed the bondholders so that Obama could reward his union friends.
But there are a lot of banks that hold large chunks of assets of a lot of companies in America that in exchange for that took a seat on the board of directors and have some control over it. I mean, that's not an unusual thing. In fact, you would expect that. If you're gonna bail the company out, you want to have some say in how it's working.
Of course.
That's not the government competing against private enterprise, unless the private enterprise you're talking about is BMW in Germany or Toyota in Japan. And if so, what is bad about that?
Government should never dictate. Government should never be in a position where they can dictate private decisions of private companies. What you just described is exactly why General Motors probably is not going to be competitive for the long term.
Are you suggesting that government should not be involved in things like saying to a private company, we're not going to give you all the privileges that go along with incorporation, limited liability and tax breaks and all these other things. We're not going to give you that if you hire kids who are, 10 years old, child labor.
the private sector has to obey all the laws that the government passes.
So you do
And
think
so,
that the
of
government
course,
should define the
stop
playing
setting up
field?
this. Of course, stop setting up this straw man. Private companies pay taxes. They can't discriminate based on race. Those are all very, very good things. I'm just saying, from a practical viewpoint.
But there are people in your
if
party
the
who don't think those are good things.
Well, who are they? You keep saying there are such people.
All
It's not
these guys
Paul
I keep
Ryan.
hearing, I keep hearing these guys yell
No,
about states' rights and too much.
You listen to Obama too much.
No,
I mean, that's what
I think
Obama
maybe I'm
and
listening to
Biden
right-wing
and all
talk
these guys
radio
wanna
too much,
say.
but it's refreshing to hear somebody, a Republican, who's sounding more like Dwight Eisenhower and less like Rush Limbaugh, frankly.
Well, I sound like Ronald Reagan. I mean, because he's still the lodestar of our party, and
That's kind of sad. I mean, he tripled the national debt. You really think that's honorable?
He got us out of a very bad economic mess. He ended the Cold War.
He created an economic
mess. And he made America feel... Look, I'll put Reagan's record against Obama's any day. Would you take me up on that bet?
I certainly would.
Obama's policies are miserable.
In your opinion.
Yes, Obama has given us more debt than all 43 presidents. Did you know that? That he's on pace to create more debt?
And it was 3 Republican presidents who set that up. But, Frank, hang on just a second.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 866-987-THOM.
Frank Donatelli, the chairman of GoPac. GoPac.org is the website. Frank, thanks for a reasonable conversation.